presentation today that you didn't know before. Yes?
I think basically that tough love isn't always the best solution.
Right.
For like long term.
That's right. So she talked a lot about punishment and the effectiveness of punishment on students and student behavior and also all types of student outcomes. And she really made this argument that positive approaches are much more effective, right? Even though they might be more labor intensive, they're more effective across a range of outcomes. What else did you learn that you didn't know prior to being in this class today? Yeah, Erica.
But she mentioned an interesting fact, which is in 19 states that have corporal punishment. And
Right.
I was kind of shocked by that.
Yeah, I was shocked by that number too. It seemed really, really high. I think that those states are mostly in the South. But that's still, yeah, the number still shocked me as well. What else did you learn that you didn't know prior to being in class today? Yes?
I didn't realize how the large negative disposition that certain ethnicity groups have before they even enter school.
You mean in terms of the coming into school at a
Yeah.
disadvantage?
Yeah.
Yeah, she
The-
talked about that briefly at the end. And some governmental programs try to get at some of those disadvantages, but a lot of students come to school with completely different types of preparation, and that's important for long range outcomes, right?
I thought that, especially mixed with the last class too, we learned how like education affects like your future pretty greatly, like with homelessness, etc. And then like you just see that like even before that happens, you know, you're already also predisposed by getting suspended or etc. to not finish school.
Exactly, so it's kind of like a tumbling effect, right? Like once you encounter one problem in school, that leads to a higher rate of perhaps dropping out, which might lead to a higher rate of crime. And so all of these things affect each other, and I think that she was able to draw on all of these trends to point in a certain direction and to tell us about how all of these things work together in American schools today. What else did you learn that you didn't know prior? Oh, you guys learned a lot. Great, yeah, go ahead.
I didn't know there were like alternate ways of like teaching without school suspensions and expulsions because it's so normalized hearing people being suspended or being arrested.
Right.
That I forget that this is a problem. This is like a deep issue that other people are facing too.
Right, exactly. So her talking about these other approaches, yeah, I mean, when I was growing up in school, it was detention, suspension, that was it. None of these other alternatives. So learning about these other alternatives, I think, was really, really important and powerful. Joe?
I think it's interesting that, I learned that the increase in like expulsion and like suspension and these kind of things are like stem from public policy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
because in my culture, like Asian culture, it's like really normal for parents to like punish their children in terms of like beating their children, like giving a lot of negative reinforcement, and then they also look at the teachers to do that to their children.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's interesting to kind of see how like in the States it's kind of how public policy that's driving teachers to do that.
Yes. So one of the things that we didn't spend a lot of time in class this semester talking about are the unintended consequences of public policy. So we might come out with a certain law that we think is going to be great in terms of changing the social landscape. But it's only with time and it's only with collecting data over time do we realize that perhaps that public policy that was so well intended has had such disastrous effects. Or in the case that Dr. Rubin was talking about today, she was talking about unequal outcomes, right? And unequal enforcement among minorities and students with disabilities with respect to these policies. Okay? So sometimes it takes time for us to understand that the policy, although maybe well-intentioned, doesn't have the results that we ultimately want to see in place, and therefore we need to dial it back. What else did you learn today from Dr. Rubin that you didn't know before? Yes?
Coming from a charter school, I knew that discipline was like a really big thing in our environment, but I just thought that was the specific school's decision.
Right.
But like after explaining it to her, she kind of like gave me background about why I was in the why they were like so tense.
Okay.
So it was just like, she explained a lot of the things that I had experienced without really knowing that there was like this whole domino effect behind it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent, thank you, yes.
I was just genuinely shocked that students with special needs are like, you know, punished at such a high rate, especially coming from like a school district where like, you know, they were very like had good programs for students with special needs. Like that was just so surprising to me.
Absolutely, that was, and some of the videos she showed were horrible, yes.
I had no idea that you could arrest a 5-year-old.
I did not know that
I
that was
think it's something you don't think about, but I was like, how is that allowed?
Yep, there were the examples that she showed, and especially through the videos, are definitely designed to like sort of shock us out of our complacence and to get us to think, you know, more rigorously about what kinds of schools we want to have in the United States. Any other comments on Dr. Rubin's discussion? Yes.
I hadn't realized how dire the consequences could be for schools that like didn't have high test scores. She said like possibly like getting them shut down if they had like especially low scores.
Yes, that they have to show progress over time, and if they're not showing progress based on those test scores, they can be shut down over time. So yeah, the consequences are dire. Veronica.
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off of what he was saying. Like when I was like in middle school or high school, I would always like speculate that the reason why they cracked down on like our standardized testing, and like we wouldn't necessarily learn like I felt like we were just learning to take a test, and so she just kind of like confirmed what I felt like we were going through like in middle school and high school.
Okay.
And also like her reactions to a lot of our pollings that she did in class was like kind of, it just confirmed also that New Jersey has a lot of work to do.
Yes.
As far as like regulation and like a lot of aspects. So just yeah.
Right. I mean, Dr. Rubin is actually considered probably, I would say, the state's expert on education, especially with respect to charter schools and standardized testing. And she's very modest and she's very humble, but she's very much sought after, and just does a lot of great research in this area and advocacy as well. So if you're interested in these issues, I'm sure that Dr. Rubin would love to see you in her office. She's just down the hall from me at the Blaustein School. You could probably set up an appointment to talk to her if these issues interest you. I'm also going to take the slides that she presented today, and I'm going to put them on Canvas, probably under the last module, which is class resources. And as soon as I get those from Dr. Rubin, I will upload them for you. Okay, so I was told that one row didn't get the attendance sheet. Is that you? All right, so if you could take this and pass it down, sign it, and then I'll collect it at the end. Before we do the group activity, I just want to try to give back more assignments because I carry these around with me and my back is going to break, so I'm trying to lighten my load. So if I call your name, please come up and get your assignment. Taeho Lee. Thank you. Okay. Jessica Weber. Hannah. Thank you. Veronica. Talked about the ways in which public policy responds to some negative outcomes or unintended consequences. So one of the things that she ended her discussion was a discussion of the Obama administration looking at the suspension policies across schools and noting that they were having a disproportionate impact on minority students and disabled students. And so that the Obama administration issued guidance for these schools to reform these policies so that we would not have these unintended consequences. Now, oftentimes when we have a change in presidential administrations, in particular if there's a changeover in the party controlling the presidency, you're going to see this type of guidance change, right? So at the end, she talked about Department of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos repealing the Obama guidance, right? So which is more consistent with the Trump philosophy about controlling sort of school discipline in a more punitive fashion. Okay? That is actually what you all read about for today in today's case. Today's case has to changed, right? From a Democratic president to a Republican president. So it asks you to look specifically at, first of all, what is the public policy problem that the Department of Education is trying to address here? Second of all, it asks you to go through a series of reforms or issues that pertain to sexual assault on campus, and for you to compare and contrast what the Obama administration wanted universities and colleges to do versus what the Trump administration wanted schools and universities to do with respect to treating sexual assault cases. Okay? Third, I asked you on the second page of the activity to think a little bit about how we treat sexual assault in general on college campuses. Many times, colleges have attempted to argue that they should have complete jurisdiction in these cases. Others say that sexual assault cases should bypass campus procedures and go straight into the American criminal justice system. I'm asking you to give, in your groups, to give 3 reasons in favor of courts having jurisdiction, schools having jurisdiction, and then 3 reasons in favor of having criminal courts having jurisdiction in these cases, okay? So some of this has to do with your thinking about the process and what might be the best process for the victims as well as the accused. Now I want you to think about your experiences at Rutgers in general, and just think about what types of policies might help decrease the number of sexual assault incidents on campus. Describe 3 policies that the administration here might pursue in terms of decreasing sexual assault. And then for each one, please provide at least one barrier to implementation. So we talked about in class, we can often have good ideas about how to do something, but then we have to implement the policy and then evaluate the policy. So what are barriers to actually implementing the policy that you suggest? In today's example, when Dr. Rubin was talking about restorative justice, she said that these have better outcomes in terms of modifying students' behavior than punitive approaches. But then at the end, she said, these are really resource-intensive types of things to do, to have teachers there, parents there, administrators there, trying to integrate a student back into the student body, right? So she said, even though this is a great policy to have, there are significant barriers to implementation. So for each of the policies that you identify in terms of decreasing sexual assault, what is a potential barrier to implementation, okay? So first of all, can I have the attendance sheet back? Okay. Thank you. All right, so what I would like for you to do is, for this case, if you can work across, like rows across to the best of your ability, I would like for that to be your group. You might have to swing your desks around, and I'll give you about 25 minutes to finish the case, and then we'll talk about it, okay? So you might want to swing your desks around temporarily to form those